Whew. Oh yeah, collective. It's time. Today, I'm going to talk about the ocean. Okay, I'm gonna give some predictions on the Earth and like the future on what's gonna happen, and we're gonna keep it scientific because that's what we do. We go at the neck of the beast. Okay, because our ancestors taught science, and then they like to hate on it, call it mythology, all types of funny shit. Thousands of years, we're not playing with these people. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the ocean, but let's discuss water a little bit. Okay, so water, according to science, is a hydrogen atom, two oxygen atoms, right? H2O, right? But what is an atom? We discussed that in earlier videos. Okay, if you're not familiar with the series, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Okay, watch the earlier videos so you can understand why we're saying what we're saying. But an atom is basically compression and refraction, right, within a field. Okay, and different fields and different pressures and gradients and vibrations within these fields create different atoms and different everything. Cells, organisms, pretty much everything. Okay. So, water itself is a field, and we could talk about that. So, let's use the Earth for example, right? You have the ocean, right? Then you have the air, and the air has water too, right? So you have this system, right, where water, right, it turns into vapor. The vapor, it could become mist, or it could become like clouds, right? And then that ends up becoming rain, right? So you have like this system, right? Because the whole field has water. Okay, but depending on the pressures, right, the gradients, right, within these fields, is ultimately going to determine the state of what it is. So water comes in different states, right, which scientists call matter. Okay, 4 phases for water, they say. It's actually 5. We'll get into that. There's obviously liquid, right? You have solid, which is like ice. You have like a gas vapor, right? We'll get into the other 2 phases. One, and it's a book, anyone could read it, by a biologist named Renee Quentin. Okay, the book is called Seawater and Organic Malaria. Okay, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that name. All right, but basically, human blood is identical to diluted seawater. Okay, so water within our body is like the water within the Earth's body. It's almost like the blood of the Earth, right? In a way, like blood is a different form of plasma of water within our body. Okay, so there's books. This book was written in the 1800s. There's other research that actually shows that the ocean seawater is like identical to our blood within our body. Okay, because the Earth is actually alive. And there have been beings that have cultivated the earth. Okay, and literally that's how we're gonna call it the seawater rose from the literal body. So they're actually attacking earth directly. Okay, and the ocean is an actual wound in a way. Okay, they showed that white blood cells can survive in seawater. 2 types of plasma. So you have something called isotonic, right, which is diluted in the same concentration as blood. Okay, and then you also have something called hypertonic, right, which is high concentration of dissolved materials. All right, so as we go on in this video, right, water is a field, okay, within itself. We exist within the field just like the earth exists within the field. Okay, and that water is part of our biology just like that water is part of the earth's biology. Okay, so if people didn't know, not just the government, but the people the government work for, let's say that, they have been weaponizing water for a while. And anyone can actually look this up. All water in the world has snake venom in it. Okay. And that specific toxin, there's two type of toxins. Okay. There's two types of snake venom when it comes to sea snakes. Okay. There's myotoxins, okay, and neurotoxins. Okay. The myotoxins are the ones that attack the body and the blood tissue, and the neurotoxins are the ones that attack the brain and the nervous system and things like that. Okay. So they're attacking the Earth's systems, biologically and neurologically. Okay, and that has a direct effect on us because we're connected to the Earth the way the Earth's connected to space, the way space connected to us. Right? You have this trinity, this trifecta. And in my other videos, you can already see the field interactions, how everything works. Okay, how space weather affects weather, how Earth's weather affects space weather, how humans affect the Van Allen belts directly, and how the Caldesky cloud is a literal information gathering system from the Earth to the moon, and it could collect the data of the whole universe. Okay, and the moon, that was a whole video within itself, and that would make sense if you see my moon video why that's necessary. But okay, weaponizing water is a very big deal because the whole field of water, basically the water dissipates, right, and it goes into the system, and that's how they could attack pretty much every organism if they chose to. Not only that, there's a lot of water within the Earth, and I'm gonna scientifically prove that there's a lot more water than they say. All right, but let's go with what is water first, and let's get into some weird phases of water, and then we'll get a grander picture of what we're talking about. So before that, Stan Tech, it's a company, right? They plan to weaponize water. They plan to weaponize all the water of the Earth. Okay, that's outside of the snake venom stuff. All right, so people already came out and said they're gonna weaponize water already, which they already have. It's not the dumbest idea. So this is an article. This is the name of the article. Earthquakes clouds equal plasma discharge. Scientists discover a fourth form of water called super-ionic ice. It's actually black water. Water ionizes and becomes black when two diamonds are subjected to lasers. So that's how they found this state of water. They actually had two diamonds, okay, and they subjected them to lasers, okay, and this fourth state of water, what they're calling the fourth state, but it's actually the fifth state of water, okay? So this state of water, there's, like I said, water's a field, right? And when you excite the field, okay, you create these different, what you would call states of matter. That's what scientists would call it. All right. So the fourth state of matter, right? And Dr. Gerald Pollack, okay, Pollack is his words. All right. The water revolution, right? For people who want to read it, okay. Basically, it's called H320, and that's the structured water that's like in plants, like fruits, right, and vegetables, okay, and there's other content creators who talk about this H320, okay, it comes from people like his works and other works, all right. It's basically structured water, right, with biological benefits, right, and it's a jelly-like plasma-like water state, which is like our cells, okay. So that state of water, right, that is a plasma state, okay, but there's different states of plasma. That's why plasma could be water, plasma could be blood, or plasma could be light, right? It's just crystallization. It's crystallization. It's structured chemistry. High energy light becomes more structured, right? The chaos turns into structure over time, and that's alchemy too. Anyway, for some nice little bits of water, right? Some information for people who want to know. Excuse me. Right, there's a book. It's called The Fountain of Youth Water by Dietmar Ferger. Okay, and it basically explains the benefits of ionized water, right? Which is what we were talking about before, which is just high energy, right? So an ion is an electron, right? That they're saying escapes from an atom, right? But basically what's happening is there's capacity within this compression, and when that escapes, it becomes high energy, right? So that high energy water, that structured high energy water, is good for your body, right? Because you have something called mitochondria, which is basically light, right? Which they're not talking about, right? So you basically need high energy light for your body, which is the same thing as salt, which is a crystal. That's why you need water with salt, and you need the high energy. So we're going to get into the body and biology, not in the next video, in the video after that, okay? Because the next video, evolution, y'all don't want to miss that. Oh my goodness. Oh man. We don't deny science on this channel, so we're going to get into what's real and what's not. It's going to be great. Water researcher Veda Austin, water intelligence, okay? His works, along with other people's works, okay? People like Victor Schauberger and other people have already demonstrated the intelligence within water, okay? Even a memory, right? Which is Dr. Emoto's water experiment, right? Even crystallography shows water has memory, right? And people have even redone this experiment, so they're like, oh, they never redone it. There's a lady online who did it with rice, okay, not just water. All right, so words actually create toroidal fields, okay, and this actually not words, it's the vowels. All right, that's Michael Telliger's works, okay, people could look him up too, right? So that actually hits the water. The vibration that your sound box puts off vibrates the water, the molecules, and structures them, okay? So why is that important? Because water has memory. Why? Because it's a field. So memory doesn't just exist within water and DNA. Okay, memories and information and consciousness exist within the ether. The ether itself is conscious. Okay, so the magnetic field is conscious, just like a dielectric field is conscious. Okay, and it compresses and creates plasmoids, which are conscious plasma. So at no point was it not conscious, okay? So when we're talking about life, even the wind, the rain, the water, the fire, everything's alive. Everything has a voice. You can hear it. It talks. It just doesn't speak English, right? And there's a lot of human ego, so they don't understand basic science because we've been poisoned from birth basically with these interpretations of materialists that came from racist scientists in the 1800s, and then they built off of these false, fabricated, pseudo-scientific ideas. Okay, but at no point does science prove any of this materialistic bullshit, and that's why this series even exists. Okay, because taking all this information and categorizing it, okay, we're putting it in PDF form. I keep saying it because that's what we're gonna do. Okay, we're categorizing all this information, we're collecting it so we can move forward. At no point we're gonna have to move backwards. Okay, people are just gonna present more information. We're either gonna learn or we're gonna build more. So, like I said before, about the water, and there's more water, right? And we're gonna scientifically prove that. Alright. So, planets contain more water. This was put out by Princeton University. Alright. Princeton University says planets contain more water than what the standard model says, including an ocean 3 times the size of the whole oceans on the surface are found inside the earth, including that the ocean literally goes to the core of the earth and comes back up. Earth's core is wrapped in an ancient ocean. That was last video. Okay, there's a lot of water. It's the same thing with our bodies. Okay, and it's not just the ocean type water. Okay, there's a plasmic type water too inside the earth. Okay. So, deep sea underwater telescopes. I know it has to do with light. We know what it's about. But the earth and the ocean. The ocean is like its own world. Okay. And they're studying things down there. Right? That's why NASA didn't want to go back. There's actual cities and domes and stuff down there. I didn't get enough time to put all of that in this video. As far as the like searching up the credentials, like the facts, right? Like actually pulling up sources. Like me, I'm neuro. I'm not sure the word. What is it? Neurocognitive. What is it? Claircognitive. Like I could just hear something and know it's right. Like, and I'm very good with patterns, pattern recognition. I'm very good at that. So I can hear something and just know it's right. But that's not fair being a teacher and bringing stuff to the collective, right? So I'll bring downloads, but for this particular series, I'm very particular with and very careful with what information I bring because we're dealing with straight facts here. So we could bring, which when I'm saying straight facts, so we're dealing with actually scientifically proven things too. So we could kind of rub it in the face of the people who have basically killed thousands of people in the name of their BS. So well worth it. The ocean has its own weather, right? It makes Earth colder. So before the flood and stuff, the Earth's weather was different, and the ocean itself, right? You have the Gulf Stream, right? You got the Antarctic circumpolar right system, right? And Earth's ocean is actually warming up. I don't know if people know about that. The stuff, the global warming and things like that. It has a lot to do with what's going on, right? So, before we get into that, a few more facts about the ocean. There's actually black holes in the ocean. They call them ocean vortexes. Okay, so these vortexes lead to other places within the inner Earth and other places, right? For people who want to look that up, and it also has to do with the portals and the underground tunnels and stuff like that. And there's actually a lake in the ocean for the people who've seen that video. So many things that challenge the standard model's view of what's going on with the Earth, right? So this is a picture of the air conditioner, how it works, and that's going to make sense for later. We'll come back to this picture. Okay, but for now, the Earth is alive. I discussed that before. For people who don't think I brought enough evidence, I just discussed right now about the fields, right, and the consciousness within the fields, right? So the Earth comes from another planet. Yes, it did get destroyed, so it did get petrified, right? But it still has a magnetic field, all right? So rocks, everything has a magnetic field. Life is life, no matter what, okay? But the Earth system is actually alive because they terraformed it, right? So now that it's connected to this sun-moon system, everything, they basically cultivated life here, right? So for people who don't think the Earth is alive, this is your mother, okay? You have to take care of her, okay? And you should be doing everything you can to attach what you call your business or your passions to helping, right? So nothing is inherently evil or good in this realm, okay? Nothing, all right? Everything's a tool. And so technology is a tool, and it's a tool we could use to help, okay? And so our technology doesn't have to hurt the Earth. Our technology doesn't have to hurt nature, and our technology doesn't have to hurt people or beings. We could teach positive things, and we could up the consciousness of every being. It takes time and it takes work. Are people willing to put in the work for these type of things, right? So what's happening? There have been many predictions about this, okay? You could go with the Mayan 5 suns or the Native Americans and the 5 suns. You could go with the Kali Yuga cycles. You could go with the end days and the raptures, all right? Right now, what is happening? The sun is changing and the earth is changing. And within that change, it's changing beings on the earth as well. So the sun is getting less dense because it's vibrating higher, right? That's why I turned white. And it didn't always look white. Now you can see it and it's white, and white isn't a color, right? So it's reached the green spectrum, green-blue spectrum, the high end of the green-blue spectrum, okay? Excuse me. In return, what's happening? The Schumann resonance, the frequencies of the earth are rising. So the earth's frequency is rising too, right? So the earth's evolving and becoming less dense. Just like us, we're evolving, we're becoming less dense, okay? So we're becoming less trapped into this materialistic stuff, okay? And people are becoming more hip to these conversations because we're evolving too, with the earth, along with the sun, along with everything. Okay, so evolution within itself is a true thing, but that doesn't mean that I was a banana, okay? And we'll get into that in the next video, and we won't have to deny any science to do it, which is my favorite part, all right, to rub it in. So, what's common with that? The sun's pole is shifting along with the earth, along with Saturn, along with the galaxy, along with the universe, along with beings. Our poles are shifting. All the poles are shifting. And when the poles shift, things happen. And this has been documented. I already showed in the last video, the Adam and Eve story. Basically, every branch of science, they've already documented cataclysms and how the pole shifts literally intertwine with these cataclysms. So we have the scientific proof, right? So what's happening now is the poles are shifting. That's why we're seeing all these crazy things, right? So global warming, right? Global warming. Basically, yeah, the planet is warming up. The sun's getting a higher frequency. And the cold never existed to begin with here until they brought their... So, yes, the earth was cold. Then they brought their technology. They created the sun, and then things are hot. Then they created the technology to make things cold. So what happened? Well, they already had the technology. They have to create it for that. Well, what happened? So, there's ships in Greenland and Antarctica. I have receipts on that, but I have to look for it. It's not going to be in this video. We're actually going to have future videos on that. I'll bring the receipts for that. Okay. But, okay. Anyway, those ships are actually part of a larger grid of siphoning energy. Okay, and it's similar to like how heart works, okay, with microwaving people. These are systems to take away energy and heat from the planet because the planet is going to heat up, and they know about it. Bill Gates knows about it. Scientists know about it. The oceans are heating up. The temperatures are heating up. Everything's heating up. They know it. That's why they made winter so crazy last year. Because they know this summer is going to be crazy. Just like last winter was supposed to be crazy hot. For people who don't know, right, for the charts, for the people who follow like the tornadoes, the daily ones, and for the people who follow the wildfires on the daily, the tsunamis, the earthquakes, in 2025, last year, all over the world, things are looking crazy, right, as far as the activity. So we can see the activity is matching the signs and the symptoms of this pole shift. All right, so we know what's happening scientifically, and we know these things are happening, and we know they've come out and said that they're trying to stop, they're trying to dim the sun, and they said they're trying to cool the planet. So this isn't like me throwing stuff out there. And I'm gonna have all the scientific articles and evidence for that here in the descriptions, right, of these videos, because we don't play with these people. Right? In conjunction with all that, oxygen levels in Earth's lakes are plummeting, right? And the Earth's ocean temperature rising affects the Gulf Stream, the Antarctica circumpolar current, right? Just like we said earlier, Earth's weather affects space weather, right? That's with giant jets, red sprites, blue lightning, etc., right? And how these things, right? How humans affect the Van Allen belt, right? Space weather, Earth's weather attached. So Earth's weather changing, space weather changing. Space weather changing, Earth's weather changing. That's a given. But what exactly is going on? So they're directly attacking the Earth. Why? Because they know the Earth's rising in consciousness, and we're rising in consciousness. Their contracts are over, right? That's what these cycles are. This new cycle is going to bring a lot of light, a lot of information is going to be out there. That's why disinformation is out there. Okay, so this is a genuine attack. Not just on people, but animals, right? You see how they treat animals, how they test everything on animals because they're too scared to test it on themselves, right? Because he's a bitch, right? He created it. He won't even test it on himself. You're going to go grab an animal, right? You're really a weak coward. And I'll say that to your face. Any chemist, whoever, I'll say that right to your face. right? Because that's just the truth. It is what it is, right? So when you're done being a coward, Earth's oil reserves. The body has oil because the Earth's a lot. So the oil that we're siphoning the oil from the Earth, just like you would siphon oil from the body, right? So you have different types of tissue, right? And these things basically are stored energy, right? Fat reserves. You have sebum, which is skin oil, right? These basically block bacteria. So they attack in the Earth's neurology, its physiology, and they're making it weak to bacteria, which is basically disease. That's how disease got spread in the first place. They had to weaken the system of the Earth because what they created at first was so abundant and strong that they had to hinder that. So evolution, basically, they try and say that we started off small and we become big, but according to our ancestors, it's the opposite. And the way they flipped history and they flipped everything, you know who we know is right. So, what else do they do to the Earth? They dehydrate the Earth. And that's for siphoning these oils and doing all these things and fracking and constantly taking water and hoarding all these things, right? Which are called natural resources, which are actually just systems of the body, which humans are basically taking different systems, siphoning them, and then we're all like placing value on it, and then someone's saying, and we're all basically agreeing that this has this value, and then people pay with paper or light. This is dead ass reality. But okay, so dehydration decreases blood volume and strains your cardiovascular system and triggers electrolyte imbalance, right? Which basically disrupts electrical signals. So you're taking energy and heat from the Earth, right? You siphoning her, right? And that's a disgusting thing, right? So there's thousands and millions of symbiotic relationships on Earth. Like, for example, the termite has little things in its stomach because it doesn't digest wood. So these things inside of its stomach digest the wood for it. And the termite wouldn't exist without these things, and these things wouldn't exist without the termite. And they live in harmony, right? So that is a symbiotic relationship, right? Or you would have something like an infection or a bacteria or a parasite that within the system you would see that it's like attacking and it's causing like this infection, and then you're having these symptoms, right? So that means the body is fighting because the symptom's actually a good thing, and we're gonna get into that in future videos. But so basically, we're here, and within this system, we're not being white blood cells. A lot of people. So that's what I would like. I would like for people to think about what they could do for the Earth and how they could help, and realize the damage that's being done and do something about it, right? Because we all play a part. You all use a car, and people don't take a plane, and people don't eat, throw out plastic, create garbage. Like, we need to stop this stuff, or create the technology that's going to stop this stuff. We know the Invention Secrecy Act exists, so it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of people coming together and facing the beast. I ain't about that motherfucker. So, harvesting energy, right? This is what I call it. If you hear anyone say it, it ain't what it is. We created that here. We created a lot of stuff here, and I got the receipts, I got the dates. But harvesting energy through negative Kelvin tech, Operation Cool Planet. I talked about that before. Bill Gates, they basically creating tech to cool the planet. But how does that work? Well, how does the air conditioner work? How does your refrigerator work? What's going on? They're taking the hot air, the heat, taking the heat. Okay, you don't create cool air. Take the heat out of things, right? That's why the back of the air conditioner is hot, That's why the back of the refrigerator is hot. So basically, here are some predictions on what's gonna happen. Okay. Here's a prediction on the future Earth and how it's gonna look because of these conditions and what's gonna happen in the near future, right? How's it gonna look? I'm gonna give people a small picture. So scientists find that India is splitting into two. So the Indian Sea, because there's no oceans, there's only seas. Okay, the Indian Sea will enter India, and it might not split in half, but it will split it. Okay. In Africa, there's a new ocean, so Africa's splitting, and there will be a new sea in Africa. So in total, right now, there's 5 seas, and in total later, there's going to be 7. The 6th one is going to be Africa, and that one's being created right now as we speak. All right. Anyone can look up articles on that. I will have those links and descriptions in this video. Okay, no one has to believe me. This is just what it is. And along with these pole shifts, this is what's going to end up happening. Okay. So, there's going to be a new ocean in America. All right. For people who don't know, there's a naval undersea warfare center in Nevada. Right. Just like there's one in Hawthorne. And for people who don't know, Nevada is not near any ocean. All right. So, for further clarification, Kentucky sits on the sea, for those who don't know, right? And Idaho, St. Louis, Missouri, other parts of Missouri, and other places have cracks already within the what they call the fault lines, right? And what's gonna happen is basically there was 2. The Mississippi River was bigger, and then right where the Hoover Dam was, there, like where the Grand Canyon is, there was another like sea, and it was huge, right? Just as big as the Mississippi. And basically they blocked that one off, which changed the whole area around there. And that has to do with history too, how dams have changed, how they cultivated through dams, and then they flood whole societies and stuff. And that's another video. So basically, America is gonna have another sea too. So you're gonna have you have the Pacific, you have the Arctic, right? You have the Atlantic, you have the Indian, you have something called the Southern Sea. You're gonna have the African Sea, and you have the American Sea. All right. So in the future, there's going to be 7 seas. Okay, Africa's gonna be split. It's gonna be cracks in India. It's gonna be cracks in America, and you can have those 2 seas there. But they're gonna call one the sea, and then that one's gonna be the Mississippi River still. Okay. Last but not least, we know the pole is shifting. We know it's in Siberia right now. It's going to end up in the Bay of Bengal Basin, just east of India. Okay, so the North Pole is going to end up in India. And the South Pole is going to end up in the Pacific Ocean right off of Peru. And and Greenland and Antarctica aren't going to have ice anymore because they are going to be right along the equator. So you're going to have India, right? So let me show you, right? So I drew this up, kind of. This is very blurry. I'll show you the other map. Okay, but you have here, you have this circle here. This is by India. Right, so let's look here. Yeah, India. So the North Pole gonna be here. Okay? The South Pole is gonna be right off Peru. Right here. Okay? So right off here. Right? Then Greenland to Antarctica is gonna be the equator. Right, so here, and here is gonna be the new system of Earth. Okay, India gonna be split. Okay, new sea here, new seas here, river bigger here. All right. This also represents the so the oceans actually reversed, right? So the oceans actually reverse their direction for people who don't know, and that reverse actually affects the whole system of the Earth, okay, and the weather, which affects the space weather. So the future of the Earth is looking way different than it is now, because the Earth constantly changes. The Sahara used to be a rainforest, right? Things happen, things get cultivated, things happen, wars happen, or the Earth and catastrophes happen. These pole shifts happen, right? And the North Pole and South Pole constantly switch. So the equator constantly switches. That's why people think Antarctica was always frozen and stuff like that, or this was like this for millions of years. That's this fake evolution. These scientists saying some BS that ain't even true. They don't even know. Nothing has been the same for a million years. Nothing. We can guarantee that. With the pole shifts, we got the science to back that up. So, these goofy ideas that, they drilled into Antarctica and they found this 30-million-year-old ice. So, that's a wrap on this one. That's a wrap. That was a little bit of the future of Earth. It's a little bit about the water and how they want to weaponize it. For people who don't know, there's snake venom in the water. They did that to attack us. They did that to attack the Earth, right? They attack our chakras. They attack Earth chakras. So basically, chakras are a system that they could use to control us anyway, right? Which we'll get into in the biology videos. But anyway, next video, evolution. That might be a 3-parter just like this one. Clearly, I see this would have been damn near a 2-hour video if I did it straight from the 3 parts. I'm so glad that we've come to this point that we're touching on different topics and we're getting off older topics. We're gonna get to the point where after these PDFs, I'm gonna create these 3D models so that we could visualize these things, right? We could see them, and then we could play them out future, past, and then I'm also do comparative things, right? And it's gonna be super awesome. I have inventions coming out for y'all. There's a lot of cool things coming out. So this series is just to document and collect the facts. So appreciate that, and save all these little links and stuff that I'm putting into, because it's important. It's important that we save this information, we collect it, and we write it down, because the internet might not always exist. They're trying to turn it into the new internet, right? They could try and shut it down, right? There's also AI isn't the future. Plasma tech is. We'll get into a technology video, but they already got plasma tech. So this internet, the analog system, the digital systems, they're trying to get out of these systems and go into these plasma systems and these crystalline systems, like where our ancestors were. So we're actually gonna come in contact with older information. Anyway, next video is gonna be great. For those who don't notice, we created this ourselves, me and my girl. Okay, so if you see anyone else rocking these, they jack the swag, they jack the style. Check the dates. I got the dates on the videos. Okay, for people who want to get some of these, I got the Instagram, okay, ancient_visionaries. I haven't posted everything that we have yet, but anything custom you want, you could hit up, send a picture, and we'll make it. We're pretty cool when it comes to making stuff. We're pretty good. So on that note, peace. Next video, it's gonna be crazy. Check it out wherever you're at. I hope you have a good night, good day. Thank you, and I'm just so appreciative to be here, so appreciative to do this. Oh man, and I'm so excited for what's coming. This is not the end, this is just the beginning. Peace.